Once upon a time in the city by the sea, behind these very doors, there was honest-to-goodness magic. It was called Theater by the Sea. The truth be known, it really wasn't by the sea. What it was by the tugboats beside that estuary that is Portsmouth Harbor, down on Ceres Street, on the bad side of town, in an old grain warehouse. A theater which thrived in Portsmouth for a quarter century. The theater was the fancy of a couple of school teachers, fresh from the University of New Hampshire, Stanley and Patricia Flowers. It was 1964.
And I remember that summer because there was a lot of wonderful promotion material, for color, and I thought, I wonder who's paying for all of this. And then discovered when I went on the board a year later that nobody was. And they opened with the Fantastics, and there was a lot of to do about it. Everybody was very excited. And then, when they opened with the Fantastics, there is a line in that, if you remember, that says, I think it's going to rain. At that moment, there was a thunderstorm going on Ceres Street. There were neither windows nor doors at that end of the theater. So everybody who was inside were passing raincoats down the seats to cover the poor souls who were sitting out on the street side.
Despite the inconvenience, Portsmouth embraced the fledgling theater. Now, the world of the theater is smaller than you might imagine, and the word got around. And soon, artists from all across the country came to work at the little theater that could.
I went up there to do the dancing donkey. And I
played the title role.
The title role.
In a later production of that, right, Tom?
And you were wrapped in a bedspread that I owned, and asked for back afterwards, and it had been all chopped up for a costume.
A company of actors that I had worked with in California had worked with Russell Trays, and one by one they kept disappearing to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and so I stopped by in '76, the summer of '76, just to visit, and they were doing Music Man in the Park, and I fell in love with Portsmouth. It just, it was really love at first sight, and then you realize there's a professional theater here, and I don't have to go live in horrible New York or horrible LA to do professional theater. It was probably the best stroke of luck that had happened so far in my life.
After studying in London and working with some extraordinary people with the Royal Shakespeare Company and that kind of training, really intensive training, working in that space was a real opportunity to put all of that training to work for me. They had told me at the Academy that it would be years before I really understood how much I had learned there. And I think that in the old Theater by the Sea on Ceres Street, it was sort of like performing on a sidewalk, or it was living room theater. It was actually very akin to television because the audience was as close as a camera might be on you. And you could never have a false moment. You could always feel the audience. They were really closer than you are right now, sometimes as close as Nancy is.
I've always been sort of excited by space and places, and whether it be the wall relationship to the ceilings or whatever, and it was just a little place. But some of the best work I've ever seen or done in my life was done in that Ceres Street place, and I think that chemistry is a good word. It didn't matter whether it was a big show or a little show. It was a place or a space that worked. Not all the time, maybe, but a lot. It was magical.
Didn't work when it rained.
Yeah.
Because if you had a confluence of a northeaster and a high tide, the sewer backed up, and you ended up with a storm sewer in the theater, so you were theater in the sea, let alone by the sea.
What's it take for good theater? The answer, of course, is a good script and actors. The rest means nothing by comparison. But all the same, the old Theater by the Sea did challenge one's ingenuity. The space was small and cramped and often uncomfortable for the audience. And the actors would often make entrances directly from the street, sometimes through the windows.
I remember one night having to go down and getting a water pump from the fire department to pump out the theater before the production could begin.
I remember we used to have to walk on boards to enter stage left. And also, when you were waiting to enter stage left, people used to come in and give you their tickets.
That's right.
there also was a play, now you remarked on the other day, you remember what the play it was, where there's a fight off stage, and it was, we decided we'd do it in the middle of Ceres Street, but we forgot that somebody's going to call the police. So the first time it happened, the actors got arrested out on Ceres Street.
Was it Anna Christie, wasn't it?
I think it was Anna Christie, yeah. That was one of the first times that we had exposed those windows. It was wonderful because it would just, you know, we did everything from two-character plays to huge musicals in that little space. And it would force you, the demands of whatever that show was, would force you to use your imagination in ways that you never would dream of, just to figure out a way to accomplish it.
Despite, and maybe because of the obstacles, Theater by the Sea produced some of the finest theater you could see anywhere. The range of plays was amazing. Mystery, melodrama, the classics, musicals, new works. They did it all. And after a while, they sold out every night. It was time to move. It took a couple years to raise the money and to make a new theater in the old brewery on Bow Street. A big, shiny space, a real theater. And in the spring of 1979, the last play was performed in the little theater on Ceres Street across from the ferry landing. The last play was entitled, Starting Here, Starting Now. But the move, it turned out, was a mixed blessing. Plays cost more to mount in the new theater. Overhead was higher. Expenses eventually became too much to handle. And for this, and for 1,000 other reasons, in 1987, the Theater by the Sea closed. It had been a great run. And today, the Bow Street location is again mounting plays and musicals, but it's not the Theater by the Sea anymore. And down on Ceres Street, there across from the tugboat landing, there where the actors made their entrances sometimes from the street and where on rainy nights the audience in the back seats got drenched, there where for a few short seasons some amazing theater happened, today you will find this boutique and virtually nothing to remind you of the magic.